Hey, America, it's election season again. The time when we all come together to decide the future of our nation. Get ready for more political ads than you can shake a stick at. They're everywhere, on your TV, your phone, even your mailbox. But before you reach for that mute button, let's talk about why this whole thing matters. It's not just noise, it's the sound of democracy in action. Every 4 years, Americans don't just choose a president, they choose the direction of the country. Your vote is your voice in shaping our collective future. It's a big deal, folks. The stakes are high and the impact is real. This election decides who sits in the Oval Office and shapes policies affecting everything from healthcare to education to, well, everything. Think about it. Your vote influences the laws and regulations that govern our daily lives. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to break down the US presidential election process. It's a journey worth understanding. Now, you might think it's as simple as picking your favorite candidate and calling it a day, but there's a lot more to it. You'd be wrong, of course. The process is intricate with many steps and rules. It's America. We don't do simple. Our democracy is a complex machine with many moving parts. Our election process is more like an obstacle course designed by someone who really enjoys paperwork and suspense. From registering to vote to understanding the Electoral College, there's a lot to navigate. But fear not, dear citizens. You're not alone in this. I'm here to guide you through it all, step by confusing step. Together we'll make sense of it and ensure your voice is heard. First up, we've got the primaries and caucuses. Imagine a political Hunger Games, but instead of fighting to the death, candidates fight for your votes. Primaries are like regular elections where you cast your ballot secretly. Caucuses are more like public gatherings where you try to convince your neighbours to support your chosen candidate. Think of it as a cross between a town hall meeting and a very polite mosh pit. The goal here is for each political party to pick their champion, the nominee who will represent them in the big showdown. Once the primaries and caucuses are done, it's time for the national conventions. These are basically giant pep rallies for each party. Delegates from all over the country gather to officially nominate their chosen candidate. There are speeches, balloon drops, and enough forced enthusiasm to make a used car salesman blush. Think of it as a political version of a music festival. But instead of bands, you get politicians. And instead of mud, you get political promises. After months of campaigning, debating, and trying to convince you that they're just like regular folks, spoiler alert, they're not, it all comes down to Election Day. This year, it's on Tuesday, November 5th. Mark your calendars, set your alarms, and maybe set a reminder to breathe every now and then, because it's going to be a wild ride. On this fateful day, Americans cast their votes for the president and vice president. Section 5, the Electoral College, not your typical popularity contest. Now here's where things get a little weird. The Electoral College is a unique system that often leaves people scratching their heads. You see, in America, we don't directly elect the president. Instead of a straightforward popular vote, we have a more complex process. This process is called the Electoral College. It's a system that has been in place since the founding of the United States. Each state gets a certain number of electors based on its population. The more people a state has, the more electors it gets. Think of these electors as points awarded in a very high-stakes game. The stakes couldn't be higher, as these points determine the next president. The candidate who wins the popular vote in a state usually gets all of that state's electoral votes. This is known as the winner-takes-all approach. The first candidate to reach 270 electoral votes wins the presidency. This is the magic number needed to secure the White House. This system means that a candidate can win the popular vote nationwide, but still lose the election if they don't win the right combination of states. It's a scenario that has happened more than once in US history. Yes, you heard that right. It's a system that can seem counterintuitive and even frustrating to many voters. It's like ordering a pizza with all the toppings, but then someone snatches it away from you at the last minute because they ordered more garlic knots. Democracy, folks. It's a quirky system, but it's the one we've got. Section 6. Swing states where every vote really counts. Because of the Electoral College, certain states known as swing states become super important in presidential elections. These are states where the vote is usually very close between the two major party candidates. Think of them as the battleground states where the fate of the election is decided. Candidates spend a lot of time and money campaigning in these states, trying to win over every last voter. Section 7. Making your voice heard. How to vote. Now, you might be thinking this all seems very complicated. Why even bother voting at all? Well, my cynical friend, here's why. Because your vote matters. It's your chance to have a say in the future of the country. You get to decide who represents your values, your hopes and your dreams, or at least the least worst option. Plus, complaining about the government is a lot more satisfying when you've actually voted. There are a few different ways to cast your ballot. You can vote in person on election day, vote early if your state allows it, or vote by mail. No matter how you choose to vote, make sure you're registered and informed about the candidates and their positions on the issues. First, check your voter registration status. It's crucial to ensure you're registered well before the election day. Next, educate yourself about the candidates and the issues at stake. Read voter guides, attend local forums, and research online. Set a reminder for important dates like registration deadlines and the election day itself. If you're voting by mail, make sure to follow all instructions carefully and send your ballot in early to avoid any delays. On election day, if you're voting in person, find your polling place and know what identification you might need to bring. Remember, voting is not just a right, it's a responsibility. Your participation shapes the future. So, get out there and make your voice heard. Section 8, and the winner is counting votes and Inauguration Day. Once the polls close on election day, the vote counting begins. This process can take a while, especially in close races. Once all the votes are counted and verified, the winner is declared. The newly elected president is then sworn into office on Inauguration Day, which takes place on January 20th. And there you have it. The US presidential election process in a nutshell. It's messy, it's complicated, and it can be downright confusing at times. But it's also a testament to the enduring power of democracy. So get out there, make your voice heard, and remember to vote. The future of the country depends on it.